Because of that work ethic, because of that experience, I'm just waiting my turn. But I'm still going about everything in the way that I did when I was aspiring to be the best of the best.
So, Tina, welcome to today's set of the Boardroom.
Thank you for having me.
So this is your second time on the show. You're on the ESPN version of the show that we shot in September with Lisa Leslie, Lindsey Vonn, and Carly Lloyd. So
Yep.
I think it was then that I realized not only how prolific and kind of just educated overall you were on business and a perspective of where you wanted to go in your career that was really impressive, but I think you embody in so many ways what the Boardroom is and why we created it. Tell me a little bit about growing up in New York and your relationship with basketball to start.
In my life, nothing has ever been handed to me. Nothing has ever been easy. And growing up in Queens, New York, to be exact, in East Elmhurst, I was always active as a kid. And so, there was this school, PS 127, we call it 127, and we would always go to the park. And I was always the last one to be picked. And in that park, there's a cage. In that cage, only the best of the best was able to play there. And I would always have to be outside of the cage. I was always looking in. The only time I would be able to get on is if in between, they're about to do another run, you get some shots up, but on the outside, I was always working on my game, always dribbling, always passing at the wall, doing behind the back, and all that. In reference, I was working to be inside of the cage.
Yep.
So that work ethic that I have is what I put towards my business ventures outside.
And so you're the only girl at this time when you're at this playground trying to play, or?
No, I wasn't the only girl. I had a childhood best friend, Diatima Hill. She went on to play at the University of Massachusetts, and she was like the one that everyone wanted on their team.
Yeah.
So in this case, you have grown dudes playing, but she was playing with them. So she was the one who would be outside with me, passing with me, showing me different moves and everything. But she was definitely a big influence, but it was usually just her and I just out there trying to be with the guys.
And at that point in your life, did you have your eyes set on being a professional basketball player, or did you just love playing and figure that you would play as long as the sport could take you?
At that point, the WNBA had already started, as it was around 97. And so, I was able to go to my first Liberty game and dream and aspire and say, I see these women that look like me doing something that I love to do on a daily basis, and that's where it all started for me.
And talk more about growing up in New York, and I know your father had a studio that ended up having a big influence on your life, and foreshadowing ahead ended up being a big part of your business. But tell me more about your upbringing in New York and your family and where all that played a part in everything.
Yeah, my father, Ralston Charles, he migrated over from Tobago in 1967, and he opened up his record store in July 1972. Which hosted records in the genre of calypso and soca music. And at that time, that was where the biggest migration of Caribbean immigrants had began. And he wanted access to the music. And so me being born in '88, I didn't have the knowledge or the focus on the golden era of calypso music. So to have been able to do a film, to do a documentary on my father, Charlie's Records, it took me back to be able to have that influence, to be able to go back in time and really find out more about my father. But I would always be at his store growing up. On the weekends, if I didn't have games, my mom would bring me there, and I would be able to go through the records and play different CDs and go up to his studio, Ralston Recordings, and play in the control room and so on and so forth. So it was a great upbringing.
And your parents were supportive of you playing professional basketball from an early age?
Yeah, my mother, Angela Murray, she dedicated her life for me to be all that I wanted to be. I won't forget this story where my mom, she was attending LaGuardia Community College. And at that time after school, she would drop me by my godmother. And it came a time when she dropped out and she sat me down and she said, my life is now dedicated to you and what you want to do. And so whatever you want to do, Tina, please be consistent in what you want to do. And that's where it started. My mom was the main one who took me to all my practices. She was the one who took me to all my games. If I wanted to go to a Knicks game, if I wanted to go to a Liberty game, she was right there by my side. So my mother and my father, they really dedicated their life for my upbringing.
I want to ask you a question that it may sound naive the way I'm asking it, but it's pretty well documented, the challenges and struggles that women have in professional sports. But what kind of challenges did you have as a woman growing up in New York and wanting to be a basketball player in terms of the amount of outlets there were for you to play? How much respect, you talked about the park, but how much respect you got from peers and people that really took it as seriously as maybe a young man growing from the neighborhood? Like, was it a real issue for you growing up?
It was, I have this, it's ironic because my mother and I just spoke about this story where I was attending St. Gabriel School. It's a Catholic school. And I was always the girl who was playing with the boys. And so at the time, the principal decided that the girls would have their gym period together and the boys would have their gym period together. And they didn't have any activities such as basketball or anything in the girls' gym period. And so my mom went to the school and to the principal and said, Tina needs to have her gym period with the boys because this is what she's into. Yeah. But for me, that was the first time that I saw that I was restricted from doing something that I love. Like, that was the first challenge, and it really opened my eyes that, I'm gonna have to go through, there's gonna be many more hurdles in life. Yeah. For me to aspire to be a professional basketball player, or you're gonna run into people who don't believe that what you're doing is what you should be doing because of what you look like, because you are a girl or because you are a woman.
Yeah.
And so that's when I really knew that, I'm gonna have to prove myself. That's when I knew where everything came full circle as far as being outside of the cage and how do I get inside of the cage to play and be where everybody else is.
When do you think you realized you were good, when you were really good?
I want to say I realized I was really good. I attended Christ the King Regional High School, where the likes of Lamar Odom, Sue Bird, Speedy Claxton, and Shamika Holtzclaw. When I went into Christ the King, there was another power forward, Karim Gay, who went on to play at Duke. And there was a time where we had an open gym, and this was my sophomore year. She was a junior, and we were playing varsity, and this was preseason. And there were all these college coaches that were sitting around the court. And after the practice, my coach, Bob Mackey, came up to me and said, what did you think about the run? And I said, oh, it was great. Like, I think Karim had a great, performance. All these guys came out to see her and everything. And he was like, Tina, no, they were all here for you. I was just like, wow, okay. And then when Coach Oriema came, and then when the late Pat Summitt came, that's when, in my mind, the wheels started turning, like, okay.
When those two came to the gym.
Yeah, I must be doing something right.
So what was the process then, deciding to go to Connecticut? Did you always want to play for Connecticut? I mean, they're the preeminent.
The first time I received an offer was from Stony Brook, and I was like 12, 13 years old. And I took it, and I said, Mom, I'm going to Stony Brook. And I framed it.
That's what they were hoping.
And I framed it, But for me, at that time, that's when ESPN started broadcasting women's games, collegiate games. And during that time, when I was playing in high school, that's when the likes of Sue Bird, Swing Cash, Asia Jones, and Tamika Williams were all playing there. Yeah. And they were making a lot of noise. And I was very attracted to UConn and seeing the fan base, seeing Coach Oriema, and I just wanted to go to UConn. There was something about what I was watching, what they were doing, how they were performing that seemed fun. You've seen a lot of togetherness, the way the bench reacted to what the other players were doing on the court. Yeah. And it was just something that I was drawn to want to be a part of it. And when I got that letter that they were interested, I knew I was going to UConn.
That was your junior year?
Yes, that was my junior year.
When all this is happening, do you have any idea of what the economics in the WNBA are at this point in your life? Do you think about the amount of money that you'd be making? Obviously, as entrepreneurial as you are, it must have been a part of you as a child as well. So were you thinking about your future and what part basketball would play, or was that irrelevant at that point?
It was somewhat irrelevant, but at the same time, the WNBA was just beginning, and they were doing a great time advertising the game. So when I would see the commercials, when I would see the Nike commercials that wasn't just featuring Michael Jordan, and Spike Lee, I was seeing Lisa Leslie, I was seeing Rebecca Lobo. I had Cheryl Swoop's sneakers. That's when the wheels started turning. Big. I wonder if I can have a sneaker one day. Or I wonder if I can be in one of these advertisements. So I knew there was much more than the platform of just playing in the WNBA, but also the opportunities that the WNBA brought to these women.
So you wanted to go to Connecticut. How, Coach seems too good to be true. Is he that special and that polarizing?
Well, for me, like I said, when it came to Coach Oriema, nothing came easy for me. And so when my mother, my father, and I, when we went up to Storrs, Connecticut, and I sat in his office, the first thing he said is, Tina Charles, yes, you're the #1 player in the country, but the only way you're gonna play here is if you work hard. And for me at that time, all the other letters that I was receiving was saying, you know, you're going to start, you're going to have all these things. But he was the one person that said something that was familiar territory for me. So I knew, okay, this is the guy that's going to propel me and have me dream bigger than where I think I can get to.
He realized, like, it was like the same thing. You were at the park, but you weren't in the cage yet.
Exactly.
I get it, totally.
Exactly.
Were there players at Connecticut that took you under your wing, or some of these people you looked up to growing up?
I would have to say, when I went to Connecticut, my freshman year, we didn't have seniors. But we had the likes of Shardae Houston, Brittany Hunter, and Keisha Soigné, and Amel Thomas. And I would say, my freshman year, when we were on the road, I would always be roomed with Melanie Thomas, and she did a great job with just honing in on who I needed to be for them. You know, really teaching me how to channel Coach Auriemma, listen to the message, not the way that he's saying things to you. And she also knew, for the success of the team and where she was her junior year, senior year, how much I meant to, you know, where we would be in the postseason and so on and so forth. So I can mostly say Melanie Thomas had a big influence on me my freshman year. And then throughout the time when Maya came, Maya had the biggest influence on me. Maya Moore, just seeing the way she worked, how she went after her craft, her approach. I've never seen anything like it. And, you know, it's very rare for someone younger than you, someone you're looking up to. But Maya really played that role for me.
What's the process in picking an agent for you guys, and what did Coach do, and what was the whole kind of feeling with your family about where you wanted to play and where in the draft?
When the draft came through, when it comes to deciding on an agent, you know, Coach Auriemma allowed me, or the agents that were interested, to come up to the school, to sit into his office and to speak to me and let me know what they wanted to do as far as like my brand, what my interests were outside of basketball, what to expect from my first year, and being that I was predicted to be the #1 pick, what all comes with that. And being that the Connecticut Sun had the #1 pick, you know, I was fortunate to be in the state for the last 4 years. So it was just a 40-minute drive from campus. So there was a familiarity there, but at the most, that was it.
Were you excited to play for Connecticut? Did you want to stay?
I just wanted to be in the WNBA.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I was thankful for Coach Tebow, the head coach at the time, and Chris Senko, the GM at the time, who believed in me and my talents, because I would say that our draft class was strong. But the fact that they believed in what I was doing those last 4 years and wanted me to be there, I was very fortunate.
Is there a pre-draft combine?
I want to say at the Final Four, for players who may not the collegiate players, but for the players who have been playing overseas and so on and so forth, they have different combines where different WNBA coaches will go to scout players that may be sleepers in that regard.
So do you remember what your rookie contract was?
My rookie contract, you know, you're considered a rookie in the WNBA as far as economics. You're considered a rookie your first 3 years. I want to say. So being that I was the #1 pick at that time, I want to say maybe I made $50,000.
Wait, you're considered a rookie in terms of your pay stays the same for the first 3 years? Or?
Yes, I want to say that, yes.
Got it.
Now, when I'm speaking to my agent, and now when it's engaging, like, okay, so from May to September, you're in WNBA, but to make up for what the disparity is, you have options to go overseas.
Yeah.
So that's when it really came about the finance. For me, with the WNBA, it was the opportunity to play in front of family and friends, to play against the best of the best, and to be amongst the best of the best in the locker room.
I'll play devil's advocate for a bit for conversations I've heard throughout the years, and I know my answer to it. But the NBA, or what I've heard a lot, is that the NBA's talked about how much money the WNBA's lost and used that at times as a reason for maybe why they can't completely change the economic situation. What was your feeling on that, and what's your kind of answer to that when you hear that?
I would have to say that, as you mentioned before, that, you know, it's like the WNBA starts and then it stops. I believe if we create more opportunities for us WNBA players off the court, to be more in the communities, to have more engagement with communities, to be better visible, more partnerships for us, I do believe that is what's going to help with the compensation. I do believe that's what's going to make us more engaged with the WNBA and think, you know what, yes, I'm making this in the WNBA, but I can make it up with the activations that I have for my team, being in the community, and then not going and not going overseas. And then I could focus on my other passion, my other businesses, outside of what I do on the court, because now I'm here. I can be in
Yep.
front of more people. I could speak to mentors. So I think it's twofold in what we have to do as players and what we have to voice.
Yep.
But the WNBA also has to provide the partnerships. So then when we stop and the train stops, we know what stop we're getting off of. We know what we want to do after basketball.
Yeah.
But if we keep doing this cycle of WNBA overseas, it's like all I've been doing is basketball. So yeah, let me just fall into being a development coach, and I may not have the passion for it. For me, you have to go aligned in what you're passionate for, and I believe the WNBA has the means to get us there.
So you have built a business for yourself. You have your foundation. You have your film company. By being here, do you think that it's programming and kind of like the development of these stars of the WNBA that's most important? Because the league and the NBA is driven by stars now. And I think that that's where the WNBA could do a way better job of really lifting players like yourself up and giving more access and attention to what you do. Because we, as people, usually root for stars, and we need to get to know them better. So talk to me a little bit about your business, because you've been able to create a business and be entrepreneurial while playing overseas and juggling with WNBA. Where is your business today? Tell me about the projects, your foundation.
Well, for the likes of 31 Enterprises that focuses on my interests through philanthropy, as you have Hopi's Heart, ARM, media, and entertainment, that hub, I wanted to focus on unsung heroes. Those are the projects that I'm putting out for 31 Enterprises, is focusing on unsung heroes. And in doing that with WNBA players, I believe that WNBA players are unsung heroes all the way through and through. And so there's a layer of resiliency that is shown about us WNBA players when we're on the court, but that's not documented for us while we're off the court and what we're doing in our business ventures. So everyone knows that we do the traditional play in WNBA and then we go overseas. I want to go beyond that. I want to capture what we're doing off the court and what our interests are beyond that. In the sense for 31 Enterprise and where it is now, as I made a reference to basketball and me growing up, I'm still outside of the cage. I'm still being looked over, but that's not going to stop the work ethic that created for me to be inside of the cage basketball-wise. So because of that work ethic, because of that experience that I've had, I'm just going to wait. I'm just waiting my turn, but I'm still going about everything in the way that I did when I was aspiring to be one of the best and as a pro. And that's where I believe that 31 Enterprises is going to be able to grow as an empire, because of when you're building something, it starts with the person.
Yep.
That foundation is me. And so because of that, I do know it's going to reach the heights that I needed to reach in order to impact, and make sure that we have the right resources to be able to do that. And so that's why I was thrilled to have the opportunity to partner with you and just you allowing me to have that platform.
Oh man, it's an honor for us. And then lastly, talk to me. I think it was your rookie year, you donated half your salary. Is that true? So your foundation, and it's so rare when I see that a lot with athletes. I always say I think athletes are some of the best philanthropists. Their instincts at such a young age to want to give back, and a lot of times to want to give right back to their community, I think is imperative. Talk to me about where that motivation came from, what you're trying to do from a foundation perspective.
Yeah, so my parents, they really set into me at an early age that the importance of being a servant unto others, being of Christian faith and giving back to others. And so I want to say, for Christmas, my mother and I, we were giving out toys to the homeless. On Thanksgiving Day, we were going to the church and giving food to the homeless. So it was always set into me to give back and put others before myself. The first time I did anything was when I built a school in Mali, Africa through Omni Peace. And I did that in February 2011. That was the first big thing that I did to be able to talk about it.
How old are you?
I am 31.
So you've made a film, won Rookie of the Year, MVP, built a school. It's impressive. And that's why we're doing this series, right?
Right.
That's amazing.
Right. And so slowly after that, when Hopi's Heart Foundation came in to raise awareness to sudden cardiac arrest through the placement of AEDs, I had read an article on a high school basketball player who had suddenly collapsed in April 2013. And I didn't know what an AED was, what an automated external defibrillator was. And to know that it's indiscriminate towards race, age, or gender, to know that for every minute that goes by, 10% of your survival rate goes down, I thought that could have been me or anyone close to me. And so when my aunt Maureen, her nickname is Hopi, passed away, I just wanted to dedicate my focus on, keeping communities' heart safe. So the foundation, Hopi's Heart, serves as an AED grant program or any nonprofit organization can just tell us why they think the device is important, and we'll donate them the AED. So since April 2013, we've been able to place 430 AEDs. You know, we saw the fruits of our labor. In July 2017, we saved the life Mr. Dan Carlson from the Marbridge Foundation, who was a recipient of an AED in 2014. So it's been really great and really rewarding to give back, and that's what 31 Enterprises is all about, just shedding light on those to make a difference.
Before I let you go, I'm going to ask you like 2 standard questions for NBA players that get asked all the time, but it's a tough one if you're not asked it all the time. Who are the best 5 WNBA players of all time? Who's your starting 5?
Why would you do this to me?
Because I was thinking while we're sitting here talking, I'm like, no one asked that question, but I hear Kevin get asked that in every interview. So I want you to tell me your starting 5 WNBA.
Starting 5. Ooh, man, now you're putting me on the spot because now everybody's gonna be like, how you didn't say me?
That's
and so on and so forth.
That's exactly right.
All right, I would say my starting 5 would be Lisa Leslie. She would roll in there. I would have Sue Bird at the point. You gotta have Diana. You gotta have Maya. I can't not have Maya.
And leave yourself off.
I wasn't gonna say me. Well, if anybody knows me, they knew I wasn't gonna.
Well, okay. I was gonna make it easier
I wasn't
for you.
gonna. Yeah. That's not me at all. Power forward. That's kind of hard because you have Candace Parker, who's phenomenal. You have Stewie. That's just tough. That's tough. But I would roll with. Crap. You got Tina Thompson. See, I didn't even say like Cheryl Swoops. I didn't say Cynthia Cooper. Yolanda Griffith. I would say CP. I would say Candace Parker. You know, I would say CP.
All right, you'll get a call from Swoops on that.
I'm gonna get a call from a lot of people. I'm gonna get a call from a lot of people. But Stewie was high on there. But I gotta shed love to my generation and the people that I was going up against in these last 10 years. So that's where that comes from.
Well, I could tell you this. I would not be shocked if you won another MVP and championship, if you sold a company for $1 billion, won an Oscar, and won a Nobel Peace Prize. You're very impressive. I said that from the minute I met you. So thank you again for coming on the Boardroom.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.